Welcome to the Heat versus the World podcast. And now, stand up and make some noise for your host, Joe Jacob.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Heat versus the World podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joel Jacob, and I got some very great panelists with me today. First, we got Ant.
What's good? How y'all doing, man?
We got Deem.
What's going on?
We got Kay.
Yeah. How y'all doing out there?
We got Shy.
What's up, Heat Nation?
And we got George.
Bro, you're getting paid too much, man. I don't like how you're the only name on the intro video.
Stop. Anyways, listen, y'all. So this is really our first pod before the regular season. And I'm excited, man, because it feels so long without Heat basketball. You know, I said this when we did the preseason pod that it felt like forever, you know, when that whole tragedy happened against Boston a couple months ago. But we're back, and I'm so excited to see what the Heat finna do. And, you know, we saw a lot from the preseason. I won't go too deep into it because I feel like a lot of coverage has been done for that. But, like, overall, you know, I'm excited to see what this squad can do, what all 15 men finna do left and right. So I just want to go and see what you guys have to think, especially as we get ready for a long 82-game season. We'll start off with you, Ant.
So, Joel, I've been preparing myself over these last couple months because I'm not going to lie. When free agency hit and we lost PJ Tucker and we're waiting, who are they going to get? Who are they going to get? Oh, look, there's a spider out there. Oh, look, there's a tarantula out there. And then they don't end up with any arachnids, and it just ends up being really depressing for a little bit. But as we start to watch this offseason and you see the summer league, you see a little guy named Nikola Jovic start to ball out. Then you see the preseason, he starts to ball out. You get some other names like Jamal Cain. Sorry, George, I know he's tired of talking Jamal Cain. But the truth is, there's just not much else to talk about this offseason. But that being said, we did see what I found to be a pretty exciting preseason as far as preseasons go, because I typically am a guy that doesn't put any stock into preseason. It's a completely different game against than the regular season, and half the time you're playing against scrubs anyways. So it doesn't mean much. But you did see a lot of things that you'd like to see. You saw those two young guys that I mentioned play really well. You saw Caleb Martin thrive when he started at the 4 that one game. You saw an aggressive Bam. You saw a really great Tyler. All those things being said, it's starting to give me some hope going into the regular season. Because, yeah, you lost PJ. You really didn't replace him with anything. But I still think you have enough internal improvement from 2 of your 3 best players, being Tyler and Bam, that if those guys take the next step that they should, being the age that they are, then this team has a chance to be right back in the Eastern Conference Finals. And all you need is the role players to step up this time, and maybe they find themselves in the finals. So I actually am pretty excited going into this game on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's the thing, because I know, like, a lot of people are kind of worried about the whole banking on internal improvement, but I don't know. To be honest, I will say that I am confident in our guys to step up, especially Tyler, because you finally got your bag. You don't got to worry about getting put into all these trade rumors and stuff. Just go out and play the best basketball that we know you're capable of doing, because at the end of the day, like, we know what he can do in the regular season. Like I said this in the last pod, we know he could give you like 20-something points per game. The question now is, can you do that in the postseason? And, like, I know it's been tough because there's been injuries and stuff, but, you know, this year I'm really expecting it from him, so hopefully he could bring it. And, Dean, what's on your mind?
Unlike Ant, I put a lot of stock into preseason, especially with players I have a big agenda on. And that's Nikola Jovic. He impressed me a whole lot in preseason. Him and Jamal Cain. Sorry, George. But them two guys, I'm really excited for this season. I know everybody was upset about the PJ Tucker loss, even though that was a big loss. But don't forget, Miami made it to the finals without PJ Tucker, and they produce his PJ Tuckers every year in Miami. So even though that was a big loss, I'm not too hurt. I don't think Miami I don't think we're going to miss them as much as Heat fans think we are. Miami, I don't think we're going to miss them as much as Heat fans think we are.
All right, that's something interesting to bring up. And like, yeah, because to be honest, when you look at the PJ Tucker thing, I mean, I don't want to go too deep into that, but he already suffered like already kind of a big injury for someone his age when Joel Embiid fell on him, which was kind of similar to the whole incident that happened friggin' last year when this man basically led to Danny Green having what could be a career-ending injury for him because that man is already 34, 35 years old. But to pay him 3 years, like however many $1 million, like it was honestly a good move for Miami to just let him walk, or even though he was someone that did so much for Miami last year. But yeah, I see where you're coming from, Dean. And how about you, kid?
I mean, man, just throughout the course of the pie here, I'm assuming we're going to get into several things. So I'll just try to nail it down to three. Y'all know I can get long-winded. Bear with me. I'm not going to do that right now. I promise. Listen, the PJ Tucker thing, we thought it was going to be a major problem. We thought we would need a four. I always thought that, like I mentioned in the last pod, we calling back to those things that Caleb would be able to step in and fulfill that role, at least in a starting fashion, to give us the main 15 to 22 minutes we need there. And we would find a way to, rotate or splice people in to fill out the rest of it. Back to points that have been made by, panel members prior to me thus far. When you look at Nikola Jovic, though, and when you look at what Jamal Cain has grown, sorry, George, when you look at what Caleb has done, I mean, they're actually making me more excited than I said that I would be if we brought PJ Tucker back. And none of them are PJ Tucker. Let's make that clear. They all have the potential to become those types of players. Jovic has the potential to become a freak, but that's neither here nor there right now because I told you I could do this all day. But between what those three guys can give us, we'll be just fine. I promise you. Now, that takes me to two more points, and then I'm going to finish with my big bang. My second two smaller points would be we're going to have to monitor Kane's games because, I mean, simply put, it's either they're going to play him lightly early on so that he's there down the stretch, or they're going to have to do to him what they've done with players in the past. Like, I want to say that was Caleb like this, where they had to sign him to a regular deal because he ran out of games? I don't know, but they've done it with several players in the past. Excuse me, details, semantics slip me right now. But Kane's going to be one of those type of guys because he just does a lot of stuff where you can get extreme value out of him at every point. Jovic, he might be a starter before it's all said and done. And I mean like this season. I'm not declaring that, but when you look at his totality of ability, everything that he can do, the man can literally play 1 through 5. He can't guard 1 through 5. I'm comfortable seeing him spot manage 3 through 5. But him beside Bam, him beside anybody, it just looks too good to keep that on the bench. And lastly, as Udonis Haslam said, and he's supposed to say this because he's UD, he's taking the heat out of the East. It's not a crazy notion. And I wrote that today at All You Can Heat. The Heat are deep. They're as deep as they are in the league. They have a second unit that would make some teams envious of what they're throwing out there, their first unit. When you talk about Oladipo, Max Strus, and Duncan Robinson, being a Tyler Hero looks like the starter. But that's all I'm going to say because, like I said, I could do this all day. But this is a title-worthy team. I'm excited, man. Let's just keep it going.
I couldn't agree anymore because I love the depth that this team provides. And overall, and I know not only you mentioned it, but I remember it was you, George, who closed the Biscayne Breakdown episode out with this team runs deep. And I do agree. Like, one name that we've kept bringing up, so I'll mention too, like Jamal Cain and all these other guys, like they out here and they're doing their thing. And I don't want to get too hyped up because it is preseason. Like, there was a time where outside this man, Chris Silva, hooping out for the Heat, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, the Heat could really develop this guy into a key rotation player. And, fast forward a couple seasons later, and he ain't even in the league right now. But it makes you happy and it shows you what the Heat are capable of doing. Everyone preaches about how great our development system is. So who knows? We might see some big plays from Jamal Cain. Like look at, I don't want to bring him up, but we had a point guard that played for us during that first year of Jimmy Butler, and the dude played amazing. He was the runner-up for Rookie of the Year, and the dude was playing really good until the bubble came around, and if we could have someone step up in a similar way where they're undrafted like the Jamal Cain and go out and have a breakout first year for the Heat, I mean, I'm all with it. So that's the way how I view it. And Shai, what about you?
I was just gonna agree with Deem saying that, the preseason does hold some weight in my opinion. I feel like it sets the tone of what to expect for the rest of the season. So I can't say, preseason doesn't matter because it shows the chemistry they were able to build even in that short amount of time. I feel like we saw a lot of great potential and chemistry coming in with even with the new guys throwing them in there. I like the way they were able to play off of each other. I don't want to talk Kane and Jovic that much because we're not sure if they're going to be that heavy in the main rotation, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I definitely would not. So
Right. And George, what's your take?
If I hear Jamal Cain, one more time,
I tried not to. I really
did
did.
12 shows last week. 12, count them, 12. And we talked about Jamal Cain, every single one of them. Let's cut Jamal Cain. Let's bring back the GOAT, Chris Silver, baby Udonis Haslem himself. I can't wait for that 10-day contract when he comes back. He's going to get 3 of them in a row. He's going to do absolutely nothing. But look, in all seriousness, I've had my doubts with the team. Some of them still remain because a lot of them are tied within the playoffs and which players can and can't perform there. It all comes down to really how Tyler Hero and Bam play in the playoffs. That's that's where our biggest improvement will be shown. Nothing through the regular season. You're not going to see anything, regardless of if Bam becomes a 25 point per game scorer, starts taking threes, starts doing all this stuff, shooting 10 free throws a game. Doesn't matter if Tyler starts averaging 30 at whatever position. But I look, my regular season expectations are quite low. Like it is what it is. I don't feel like we have a lot to prove in the regular season besides let's just get a decent seed and go from there. But when the playoffs come around, that's when we're gonna have to prove to ourselves we're the we're the team that people need to be scared of. When it comes down to the playoffs, we're gonna have to prove to everyone that we're that team that everyone's gonna be scared of again when Jimmy goes off. Hopefully, both Tyler and Bam can come with some real aggression. But it's about the young guys. That's what it is. With the regular season coming around, people like Jamal Cain, people like Drew Smith as well coming into that two-way deal again. I don't know what they see in him, but obviously they know something we don't. People like Duncan as well has a lot to prove in the regular season. When it comes to how many minutes he's going to be able to get down the line, but it's all moving towards the trade deadline and seeing what we're going to be doing with these expiring players. So it's an exciting season, seeing what's going to happen. There might be roster moves, there might not be. We might have enough, we might not, but it's all going to be in due course.
George, I am so proud of you, man, because I distinctly remember getting into it with you maybe not even 3 or 4 months ago when we were arguing, saying, what's this team going to be if the Miami Heat running back? And if I remember correctly, you were over there crying, saying, oh, at least get Kyle Anderson, at least get Kyle Kuzma. Oh, my God, please get somebody. And I was preaching to you, saying, listen, George, this team has some really great young players in it. And if these guys can step up the way I think they can and the way they should, being 22 and 25 years old respectively, I said, this team might have the chance to be a better team next year. So it's nice to see you finally coming around. I don't know if that's because you just want some hope going into the season and you don't want to just be negative all year, but it's nice to see you coming around because I certainly agree with you. And to me, those two guys have shown that they have the skill set, that there's still another leap they can take. And if that's the case, then this team's going to be scary. But I agree with you. It's going to come playoff time. Regular season's not going to tell us nothing. We saw Tyler Hero ball out in the regular season. The next step is for him to do it in the preseason and not get that DeLon Wright treatment that he got. So I do agree with you there.
I think you mean postseason. And don't take words out of my mouth. I never said anything about no Kyle Kuzma. There's no and it sounds like
you want Bobby Portis, Ricky Rubio. You wanted
what is wrong with Bobby Portis and Ricky Rubio? What is wrong with both those players?
Well, for starters, Bobby Portis,
championship player, Bobby Portis,
one of the ugliest human beings I've ever seen. Okay.
He's got more ring. He's got rings. He's got a ring. That's all I care about. At the end
Plural.
of the day.
I was gonna say.
Give me. He's got one ring. Give me championship pedigree players today. And it sounds like you're obsessed with the word Kyle Anderson, Kyle Kuzma. What about Kyle Lowry? That's what I want to talk about quickly. Kyle Lowry. The expectation for him coming in the season is something that he owes us $30 million for the meatball. He is the meatball. That's what I'm calling him. All right. He is round. Those big T-shirt, I lost weight photos, complete lies. They were lies. This man still looks as big as he did last year, and the injuries aren't going to get easier. He's older. His knees are worse. I don't think that Kyle Lowry is going to be the player that we think he is. So come halfway through the season, is there a possibility that you could look to put him in a trade package?
Let me listen. Like I said on Biscayne Breakdown, if we trade Kyle Lowry in the regular season, that means things went downhill. If we're trading our starting point guard, championship caliber starting point guard, in the middle of the regular season, that means Miami was a playing team. And I'm gonna disagree with both of y'all when y'all say the regular season don't matter. I think the regular season do matter because it's going to show what team we're going to be in the playoffs. We're going to know the flaws going into the playoffs from the regular season, like we seen in the regular season and this playoffs. That it was times where this team couldn't find a go-to scorer. It was hard for this team to put up points. We've seen it in the regular season, and we've seen it in the playoffs. So I think the regular season is just as important as the playoffs.
All right, a couple of things, man. First of all, let me start off with this. Chris Silver's name has been invoked on this podcast, and here's the thing. If Joel Anthony could have a role, then so could Chris Silver. He just got phased out. There were guys out there that were more valuable at that last roster spot than him. He's a heat guy. He'll run over his mama to get a rebound. It might not look good, but he'll do it. Anyway, let's move on. When you look at this season, man, the regular season does matter. And I think particularly this year, it's because we're going to be I hate to say we, but they're we. Anyway, hell with it. We're going to be an offensive focused team this year, whereas in years past, we've been a defensive focused team. So though we are going to slide under the radar, and I told somebody this on Twitter the other day, I like to, call back to my thoughts so that everybody know I'm not lying. I can send you guys the tweet. We're going to slide under the radar, but we're surefire going to be a contender because of that. The depth that I mentioned, and because of that offense, like this is going to be a Heat team unlike anything we've seen, I believe, from the perspective of they're going to lean so heavily into outscoring people that the defense is, of course, going to be an afterthought because they're the Miami Heat. But the defense is going to be like, damn, they play defense too? So, excuse my French, guys. But, the thing about that is that's something that's going to take time to develop rotation-wise, got everybody fit. Tyler Hero's ability to knock down that off-ball shot, to move without the ball, come back, catch and shoot ability is going to unlock so much for him. Makes me extremely comfortable with him being in the starting lineup. That's something that he showed against New Orleans. I think that the potency that lies there is just something that's going to be different, something that's going to make the regular season intriguing. And though we're going to slide under the radar for most of it, I think that's something that most teams are going to look at them for as they head into the playoffs. When it comes to potentially trading Kyle Lowry, you might want to keep your eye on Draymond Green. And I'm not putting this out in the ethos. I'm not saying I want him, but the Warriors are going to move him. And when you're talking about matching money, you want to keep your eye on that scenario. So, but you do make a point. If we move him, it's because the season is going to crap.
Okay, I don't usually disagree with you, but I 100% disagree with you on when you said this Miami Heat team would be more of a focal point on the offensive end than the defensive end. Because this is defense creates offense, and this team, their best three players are great defenders, and our head coach and president pride themselves on the defensive side of the ball. We need the defense. Well, this Miami Heat team needs defense to create offense for them. We're not like the Brooklyn Nets where we have a Kyrie Irving or a Kevin Durant. This is a gritty team. I always say, it's hard to to win a championship with grit and grind your way to a championship. It's hard to do that because I think this is a scoring lead where you do need scores, but you also need great defenders. So that's just where I disagree with you at on the. This team would be more of an offensive team coming in this year. I want you to actually speak more on that, on why you think that.
Should I hop right in now, guys? Well, when you look at the depth that I'm speaking of, think about the traditional lineups and think about what we have been over the last several years. Tyler Hero, yeah, you had the Duncan Robinson situation last year, which kind of made that a moot point of one of those guys are going to be that off the bench. Speaking of Max Struss or Duncan Robinson. So you took Duncan out last year, so you didn't have that to worry about. But let's say you have Duncan Robinson, the thing that got Duncan Robinson $100 million, which is now on your bench, mind you. And because Tyler Hero, who was your one-man show off the bench, is now your starting two guard, which, by the way, is way more offense in that starting unit, a top 25 scorer for most of the league. You add that to a starting lineup that just went to the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7. So, first of all, then you bring Duncan Robinson from 2 years ago. That's over 40% from three on nearly 9 attempts a game from the bench. You know what I mean? Based on what we've seen in preseason. And also adding the guy that went nuclear enough to take the starting role from him last year in Max Strus back to that bench unit, mind you, of Nikola Jovic, who we've both spoken highly of, plus a Jamal Cain, plus whatever you can get from Dedmon, plus whatever you can get from year 7. And the guy that I haven't spoken about is Victor Oladipo, who though had a rough preseason, his role on this offensive team is going to be to facilitate to those shooters on the second unit. So what about when he decides to go all Orlando Depot every 3 games or so? Man, you're talking about a second unit that could realistically, I'm not even hyping, this second unit between those 3 guys alone could give you 45 to 60 points a night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
And hold up. Before we continue, I have something huge to really bring up. I just gotta say, NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back. So tip off the season with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can make any $5 NBA moneyline bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings up to 100% with DraftKings Stepped Up Same Game Parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, opt in, and place a Stepped Up Same Game Parlay today. With payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is where I go to bet on the NBA. And I'm telling y'all, come Heat versus Bulls this Wednesday, y'all already know I got to place the bet for the Heat. So with that all being said, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use the promo code TBPN, and make any $5 bet this week and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code TBPN. And just so you know, minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply, and that's basically it. Continue on with the convo.
That was awesome.
I'm ready to go
If y'all
put a
want some
lineup
free
in right
money-
now.
Oh my God.
Hey, if
I'm
y'all
going
want
there.
free
Let
money,
me speak. I'm going out of my cage.
go
I've
on
just heard-
DraftKings. Go ahead, George. Go
I
ahead.
just heard someone say Draymond Green for Kyle Lowry. Now, I don't care who we are. We are not that down bad. We are not that down bad.
Excuse me. Hold on. You are not going to do this to me. That is not what I said. What I
You
said
definitely
was
said that.
No, what I said is if he is to be moved, you want to keep an eye on that situation, meaning those wheels might turn at the same time. I didn't say it was going to be a straight up deal. I'm saying when you're looking at the amount of money that's out there, you have to also consider business as opposed to just hopping on the trade machine. I'm just saying, bro, how many other contracts that teams will be looking to get off that can possibly be moved this season? We're just talking about numbers here. That's all I was saying. So don't say that I said Kyle Lowry will be traded for Draymond Green, because that's not what I said.
No,
I get a quote.
I think
That's
Kyle Lowry
official.
will be moved after this season, but y'all got to look at the bigger picture. If your starting point guard is traded in the middle of the season, that means it's stuff didn't work out. It's not good. It's not looking good for Miami Heat.
I
Are we
agree
saying
there.
right now? Are we saying that right now that Gabe Vincent isn't capable of starting? Isn't capable of
He's
playing a bigger role?
100%. He's 100%.
No, I'm
You
But
think
not
he
saying
is?
that either. No. I was saying no. I'm not saying that either. He is capable of starting, but I think the
You
bigger
heard it
picture
here
is
first, folks. Kay wants Draymond Green for Kyle Lowry, and he doesn't like Gabe Vincent. These two
I said
things.
he's capable of starting. Who are you, Stephen A. Smith?
he was
Yo,
the third best player, the fourth best player in the playoff was Gabe
I
Vincent.
love me some Gabe Vincent, who was a guy I forgot to mention when you're talking about we're not going to be an offensive team. I'm sorry, I just had to shoot at you guys because I feel in a corner right now.
But Gabe
But
he's a great defender. I believe he's a better defender than he is an offensive player.
I think he's a great two-way player. I don't disagree, but I won't wholeheartedly agree there either. The thing about Kyle Lowry, and I'm going to say this, then I'm going to let somebody else talk because we got into a whole little tangent here. I believe that Kyle Lowry is going to bounce back this year, first of all. I want to put that out there. However, I wanted to agree with you in saying that if we do end up having to trade him, that's terrible. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying that he's going to get traded. I'm not saying any of that is going to happen. I'm just thinking about the possibilities based on how business is done and based on, like you said, what that would mean for the Heat. But I think Kyle Lowry is going to bounce back because I think he was out of shape. I think his rhythm wasn't there. He was coming to a new situation. Whatever he was mentally dealing with last year didn't allow him to get into that whole thing that he needed to be into. And he still had Kyle Lowry moments. He just couldn't give you that consistently or as much as you needed. And that's what it takes to win a title. And I think we're going to get that this year. But who knows?
Listen, we all saw one of those Kyle Lowry moments when he did that terrible flop against the Atlanta Hawks in the first round. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Kate. But
What
listen,
about in the conference finals where he won us that game, though?
well, here, I actually have an opinion that seems to be a little bit of a mix of everybody here. Because one, I also want to shout out our sponsor, DraftKings. And if y'all want some easy money, go ahead and bet the under on Duncan Robinson because he's going to suck this year. And I completely disagree with Kay on that. But we'll save that for the next topic. But going back to this whole Lowry Draymond thing, which is not something I ever thought about. So I actually really like that you brought that up, Kay. I actually love the idea. And I think so far it's okay. Do you like that idea or you was just mentioning it?
It depends on what Kyle Lowry does. So if we have to move Kyle Lowry and there are no other takers out there, I like Draymond for the Heat, but I'm the type of guy, I want Draymond to take $20 million or less. Because there are teams out there that are going to be willing to pay him 25 once he hits the market. Let's just all be real about that. If he take 20 or less, I'd be willing to take it. I'm not saying I'm tripping over myself to do it, though, no.
Because I like the trade. But that being said, I also like Kyle Lowry. I don't think he's completely terrible like George seems to think. So it sounds like George dislikes Kyle Lowry and dislikes Draymond Green as he's mouthing to me on camera that he didn't say that. Now, if you're saying that he's overpaid, fine. But who isn't overpaid in this league? In this league, you have to overpay to get players, okay? But I think the reason I would do that trade is because I believe in Gabe Vincent. So Kay sounded like he would do that trade, but he also sounded like he didn't really believe in Gabe Vincent.
No.
So am I wrong there, Kay? Where are you at?
Yeah, you're wrong there. And that's what I was trying to clear up. And I just wanted to make that point clear. And that's why I said I wanted to make sure we got back straight because sometimes in the translation of the chaos of the whole debate or the conversation, points can get lost. No, I fully and firmly believe in Gabe Vincent. I love me some Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent could start on at least 15 teams, and you can't prove me otherwise because he's so two-way and he's gritty. So, no, I love me some Gabe Vincent, and he could totally start for this Miami Heat team.
You know, we on a whole wild convo right now. Shai, do you want to make any sense of this right now?
I kind of want to go a little bit off of, I think somebody mentioned PJ Tucker. I don't feel like we talk about that loss enough. That was a blow for us. I'm still debating in my head who can step up and fill that position because for us to say that this season we're going to be an offensive team instead of a defensive team, I think that's unrealistic. Defense, to me, wins championships. Offense sells the tickets. We have always been a defensive team, and I feel like that's why we've always been, realistic contenders getting into those finals. So I feel like that PJ Tucker loss, I know it hit me hard, and I feel like we're going to start to see throughout the season the real effects of not having him on this team this season. That being said, I'm expecting Bam. Hero, everybody to step up. But I still feel like even with them playing more aggressively and playing a little bit more into that defensive role, we're still needing somebody to fill that spot.
I appreciate, like, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I agree that PJ Tucker loss is huge. But we could never ever offer him that 3-year, $33 million deal. It's just never going to happen. Like, can you imagine paying someone $11 million when they're 40?
No, that's valid. That's valid.
It's such a bad thing, and it's such like it's one of those necessary losses. But I know what you're saying. It takes its toll on our game plan, and the fact that we've been a defensive identity team for such a long time. But the best defenders are still on the team. He wasn't even in the top 2. He was the 3rd best defender. It was Bam, it was Jimmy, and then it's PJ Tucker, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I feel like Caleb offers something that PJ didn't. And PJ was one of the hardest workers that we've ever had on the team. That's no doubt. He's one of the hardest workers.
He got that dog in him. He dog in him.
He was killing it, and I loved him on my team. But with Caleb Barton stepping up and taking that role now, I feel like he offers something a bit more as well. It's a little bit more of that defense to offense transition that really helps us a lot because he's faster. He's not as strong, but he's more limber. He's going to be able to get to the paint a lot easier. He's a better ball handler. That's just what I've seen from last year to this year. He's a better ball handler than PJ is as well. He offers something that we didn't get with PJ, which might play into our advantage because as supposed, going to switch into more of an offensive game plan now with starting Tyler Hero. And we see that because he's starting him over Oladipo. And Oladipo is a certified defensive freak. He's amazing. So by starting Hero, there's an obvious switch in our mentality going from defense to offense, which I don't know if PJ would be able to really play into that sort of system. Not being 38 years old, I don't know if he'd be able to play into it as well. He was a good 3-point scorer pre-All-Star break, but post he fell off the map. He absolutely did. He was leading the league at one point in corner threes and then just dropped. Same thing happened to Dedmon as well. It's something about the All-Star break that ruins these types of players. I don't know. It's going to be interesting though. It's going to be when I said before that the regular season doesn't matter, I mean in the grand scheme of things. As long as we get a good seed, that's all I really care about. But we're going to see the rotation iron itself out. We're going to see if Duncan can play himself back into it or if he's just going to be another lost cause on the 18 million.
Yeah, so to piggyback off something you were saying there, boss, you're right. When it came to the post All-Star break, I would look more at the injuries for PJ Tucker and Dedmon, though. Just speaking, and I think what a lot of people are miscategorizing about my perspective is that because I said we were going to lean more into offense, is that I said we weren't going to play defense. When in fact, I said we're still going to be the Miami Heat. They're still going to play defense because they're the Miami Heat. I'm just saying, based on some of the other things that have been mentioned throughout the podcast, such as Tyler Hero being chosen over Oladipo, that's a clear sign that we're choosing offense over defense. We're leaning into an identity this season that we couldn't have taken in previous seasons because we just didn't have the firepower. Like, we're talking about Nikola Jovic, who's a guy that could come in on that bench and just ignite pure potency being a 7-foot point guard. Like, not only Oladipo distributing, but that guy too. Like, we don't know. And I was the guy, Shy, that actually mentioned the loss of PJ Tucker because it frightened me at first until I saw the progression with Caleb Martin, Jamal Cain, Nikola Jovic, and everybody else that came along because of that versatility that was mentioned about the new options we have at the 4. They don't do that thing, which is defense at all levels, at as high a level as PJ Tucker. But every option we'll see at the 4 this year can just do more than PJ Tucker. So it's different.
All right. So it looks like everyone's got their thoughts out about that specifically. And, and that's the thing, like what you guys mentioned, One thing that we went back on this PJ topic about was while he will be missed, and something that George, you did acknowledge, is the fact that we weren't going to pay him that much money at the end of the day. So that was something we were going to have to deal with. And one thing that I do want to quickly touch on before we close this pod out is, and I don't want to make it seem like we're already talking about trades and stuff because the season hasn't really started yet. But in my opinion, and y'all can disagree with me if you want, I feel like you do need to make at least some sort of trade to make it, to at least give yourself more confirmation that you have a team that can legitimately go to the finals. And like the reason why I say this is because I'm not saying you gotta go into the trade deadline and trade for like a superstar. But if you could just go out and get a key role player, I think that could really help in the long run. Because if you look at the last four teams that have made it to the finals, specifically from the East, they've all made some sort of major move that honestly helped them. Like, for example, Toronto in 2019, they went and got Marc Gasol. That he played a key role for that Raptors team. 2020, the Heat getting Iguodala, Crowder, and Hill. We saw what they did for Miami. 2021, the Bucks getting PJ Tucker. 2022. I really didn't think much about this, but the dude did cook when he played against Miami. That man was none other than freaking Derek White. He had his moments as well. So like overall, like for me personally, if you're the Heat and you can go out and you can get like a key role player that can come out and do their thing, depending on what you have to give up, I'm all for it. I know a couple names people have been throwing out there is guys like Harrison Barnes or whoever and stuff. And I want to know what you guys think. Like, are you guys on the same board where you're like, you mess with this team, but you feel like you would love to see a trade down the line? Or are you guys just wanting to see how everything plays out? Because that's also an option as well. But for me personally, I strongly believe that no matter how good this team could be, it wouldn't hurt to at least just make one small roster change by the time the deadline comes. So the floor is yours to whoever wants to hop in.
Point Joel doing Point Joel things. He just read my mind. That is the most interesting topic up until the trade deadline right now. Is we have expiring deals. We have a lot of them. It's Omi at 7, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus. These types of players are all expiring deals. Now, when it comes down to it, Max Strus and Gabe Vincent are going to demand around the same price as Victor Oladipo is getting now around $9 million. He's got a player option as well. He's technically an expiring deal as well. It's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with these contracts because the way that this team's orchestrated, it's not like Golden State where they're paying $500 million payroll. We've got a $148 million payroll right now. They're paying $500 million. So is there a situation where we could just dive deeper into the luxury tax and to get these players? But there's rules, there's trades, there's regulations around trades. There's a lot of things we have to consider in these situations. But just say it comes down to it, and Lowry's looking lackluster, but Bam and Jimmy and Hero's performing really well. Duncan Robinson's a really tradable contract as well, is around that $17 to $18 million mark. He can really, make a trade happen. So is it worth putting these deals together with a first round pick to go in and get a better player? Now, I don't know which players are going to be available at the time because that's just a matter of time. We're going to see which teams aren't performing. Are the Bulls going to be? There's a bit, a lot of rumbling around the Bulls right now saying if they don't perform come the trade deadline in February, on the February 9th, are they going to look to move one of their bigger pieces like DeMar DeRozan? And that could be a move that we could look towards as well. I'm not saying he's the perfect choice. I'm just saying he's a choice. So I think it's all determined on how we play up to that point. If we strike a really good rotation where these players like Gabe and Max Strus perform well, we just can't trade them. Or do they boost their trade value up enough to actually be put into a deal for a better player?
I don't think we should be talking about trades at all because we didn't even get to play a game yet. We didn't even get to Christmas yet. We got to see what these young players are really capable of. Jokic, Jamal Cain, these guys can really be helpful to this team in a regular season, and this might already be a championship roster. I don't know yet. None of us know yet. We got to wait and see. I don't think we should be getting ahead of ourselves on the trade thing.
Deem is my man tonight, for real. For real. I really agree, because I was just going to say, we talk about so much that the Heat has this depth, and we do. I don't feel like not that we're not giving enough credit, because we do, but at the same time, let's see how we do in the season first. Let's fill it out, because we do have that depth compared to other teams in the East. So I feel like we can run it back. I've been saying run it back for like forever now, but I really do believe that in my heart. So
I want to hop
Yeah,
in here
man.
because I
Go
was
ahead,
just going
Mo.
to say,
Go
yeah, I
ahead.
want to hop in here because I agree with so far what Demon Shay said. So, and also I don't want to talk trades either because the season didn't even start. I don't know what we're doing here. But Shy did mention the depth, right? So I have a list here of kind of my depth chart, and I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on this because I think they have a lot of pieces. And like George was saying, some of these guys are expiring contracts. I'd hate to see them walk for nothing like Kendrick Nunn did, for example, when maybe you can't get a pick for some of these guys. So I have on my list here 8 guys that I think are guaranteed to play. I'm going to read them off. If someone disagrees, just comment in the chat because it's the others that I want to talk about. But the 8 guys I think that are guaranteed to play is Lowry, Tyler, Jimmy, Caleb, Bam, and then Vic, Gabe Vincent, and Max Strus. Those are the 8. If you want to assume that in the regular season, Spoelstra goes 11 deep, that means that he would have to add, 3 more guys, okay? The guys that he can pick from is Dwayne Dedmon, Yurtseven, Nikola Jovic, Duncan Robinson, and Highsmith. You can argue all 5 of those guys deserve a chance to play. The problem is they only have 3 spots. I personally would pick Dedmon, Yurt, and Jovic just because you need the size, and Jovic has proven that he needs some time. That leaves Duncan Robinson without a legitimate rotation piece on this team. You cannot have a guy making that much money sit on your bench. So that being said, I don't see any way he's on this team past the trade deadline unless he happens to get a role early on because someone gets hurt. I know Yurtseven is hurt right now. I don't think he's going to be playing to start the season. Even if he was, though, I only expect 15 minutes a night from him and Dedmon. So between the both of them, you get 30 minutes a night. But still, they're a rotation piece. And the only way I was saying if Duncan balls out, if he does get some minutes early, maybe he'll stay in the rotation. But if not, I don't see any way he's in this rotation because you got the 8 guys I mentioned, and then there's only 3 spots left. I think you got to go Dedmon, Yurt, and Jovic. So that leaves $18 million on your bench this year. I don't see any way he's on this team past the trade deadline. Whether that means Harrison Barnes, I'd absolutely love it. I would just hate trading a first-round pick for a rotation player. But if it's a guy like Harrison Barnes, I'll deal with it. If it was a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic, I wouldn't have liked it as much. But we're just going to have to see what happens as the season goes on.
All right, so I kind of got skipped around on the last question. I'm gonna go ahead and answer that. Then I'm gonna address you there. I'm never a guy of making trades just for the sake of making trades. Like, why are we making trades? Like so many people have said, Shy, Dean, we haven't seen this team yet. Like, what are we doing? So I mean, if there's a way out there to make your team better, you absolutely do it. But we don't know that yet because we don't know how good this team is. And that goes back to a point that I've made all throughout the pod. The depth includes Duncan Robinson, so it confuses me with guys, with people like not guys. I didn't want to do that. Sorry about that shot. When people like Shy or like Ant says Duncan Robinson is tradable, expendable, but at the same time you don't want to do any trades. It almost feels like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. And back to the money, you have to play a guy like that, especially when he's gone nuts this preseason. Like, I don't like. Have we not seen him go nuts? Like, have we not seen the same
Duncan
Duncan
Robinson
Robinson?
is the guy who has no confidence. So, of course, in games that mean literally nothing, of course he balls out. Put him in a game that matters and see what he does.
My brother, the game is the game. So I understand what you're saying, but doesn't that show you that you should give him an opportunity to show you that he don't got it? Because based on the last thing we've seen, he got it.
Yeah, the last thing I saw was him getting benched in the playoffs because he was completely unplayable. That's the last thing I saw, okay?
Okay, well, I would suggest that you find a screen and watch some preseason basketball. And that's why I said in the beginning, I don't put complete merit into it, but you can't throw it away like it's not basketball either. So, I mean, I just don't see how you don't play the guys. Like, what we've done in this social media trade machine era is focus more on the trades than the actual basketball, bro. So if we got guys there that can perform and give us something, why are we trying to get rid of them for no reason? And when it comes to the rotation, I think that Yurt is the odd guy out. I think that Duncan is the 9th, 10th, or 11th guy. I think that there's a role for Dedmon because there's going to be size and you need that physicality. And I think that Gabe plays. Like I said, I think my bench unit looks like this. Gabe Vincent, Victor Oladipo, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, and it's going to be hard to keep Jokic off the floor. But then you also got Dedmon. Yurt is the guy that falls out for me because Yurt is still slow-footed and can't guard nobody. So at the same time, how are you the guy guarding the roll guy, but you turning around, looking around crazy, the roll guy scoring the layup, and you still in the middle of the paint? I've seen that 3 times this preseason. That's what he's been doing since he got here. He can't play.
I just want to chime in quickly as well. I want to apologize to Kay because I feel like you've been wildly disrespectful on this pod. You know, I did the same thing the year before. I misconstrued your words a little bit and took it a bit far. You guys are thinking that I'm saying we should trade Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, and all these players tomorrow. I literally said it's a matter of time. Wait and see if this team clicks. If not, then we have to make trades because Ant brought it up before. These players are expiring. We need to figure out what we need to do with them. We need to figure out who's being converted from their 2-way contract. Like if Jamal Cain plays well, Drew Smith comes out and balls, we don't know. We don't know. So this is all a matter of wait and see who clicks and see who does not.
Oh, no, I wasn't disagreeing with that directly.
No.
I was just answering the question.
Demon Shay did that. Shy did that.
Oh, okay. No, I just see, and again, because we've been confused so much, I like to make sure I'm clear. No, I wasn't disagreeing with that because that's a part of figuring it out and doing what's necessary if you have to make your team better. So exactly, I'm just right. Seeing what we got and making, and that goes back to my whole trade, Draymond, Kyle Lowry thing. You have to look at the business of it all too, not just what fits the trade machine. Because hell, we can't just trade everybody and bring the best players back. If that's the case, give me the last 2 years of LeBron, bring me Anthony Davis. Let's find a way to get Giannis in here. And if we can keep Zion on the floor for 60 games, bring him to Miami too, because New Orleans ain't that far.
Preach.
Y'all feel what I'm saying?
Preach. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's scrap this team. Let's trade Jimmy. Let's do it now. Have it. No, I'm just joking. All right. No, I'm just.
Okay, I love that. But by your logic, you would not play Victor Oladipo then because he has had an awful preseason. And if you want to go based off the preseason, then start Duncan and bench Vic. So that logic to me is still awful.
Well, and I also mentioned the piece that I wrote. Like Vic, the approach for Oladipo is what gives me hope. Vic has only played 2 games. He only played 8 games last season, and we know that they were bringing him along. And as I mentioned earlier, his role with that second unit right now until he decides he can be Orlando Depot is going to be able to distribute. So we saw after only 8 games last year what he was able to do to Jaylen Brown in the playoffs. If you can do that and get me the 4.5 plus assists that you average in them 2 games in the preseason, yes, I got the facts to my shooters, then I'm good.
See, it's such a mind, but you brought up something before, Kay. It's such a Miami Heat thing to do is to get involved on a trade that they have no business in. It could be a Dallas Mavericks and Golden State trade where they trade Draymond to Golden State, and the Heat would just creep in there and make this a 3-team deal
just to move some money. But that's the money.
Move money, exactly right.
We have to keep that in mind. This is Pat Riley and Ellisburg we're talking about. These ain't no rookies.
They're crafty. They know what they're doing, and I've always had faith in them from day one. I know when we didn't make trades, it's an initial human response reaction to feel upset the fact that this team didn't replace a player, but at the same time, there's positioning that's been done. Trading KZ Okpala, who's been playing brilliantly, by the way, at Sacramento. He's been playing good.
Don't you do that?
He's been playing good ball.
You want to break my
heart?
Is
not an NBA player, George.
He is an NBA player, and he's good and he's fine. But no, we have to get rid of something to get something back. We can't make a cake and then eat it as well. We can't do it. We can't have everything we want. Sometimes you need to sacrifice to move forward. That's the way it works. To free up that pick that we did, the right move is not there. Wait till mid-season. Wait till it start of next off-season. Something goes wrong. Something goes right. We don't know. We could be champions by the end of the year. But it's a matter of positioning. We've positioned ourselves and poised ourselves to make a move. Expiring deals, good salary, good salary pieces, and so players like Hayward Highsmith's on a 2-year deal. We've got players like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus expiring. We've got Duncan Robinson on a sizable contract. These players are a recipe to make a good trade happen if necessary. If necessary.
I don't know, George. I saw Pat Riley trade that bum Kelly Olynyk and get Victor Oladipo in return. So maybe
That's a fantastic trade. That's a great trade. That was an amazing trade. We have a potential. We have a guy with so much potential to go back to his all-star form for $9 million. $9 million. That is prime Pat Riley right there. That is $9 million. He injured himself. Pat Riley injured Victor Oladipo, so he take less money. And now we've got an all-star caliber player with potential coming off the bench for $9 million.
Also, back to that approach, Depot knew that the best way to get back to potentially getting another bag was to be at a place like Miami where he could be his best self in a winning situation, and potentially do it all in the hot where it's healthy. Well, do it all healthy where it's hot. Words Twimble. I love y'all, by the way. If I sound mad, it's because I'm passionate. Because y'all said Chris Silver, KZ Okpala, and he called Kelly Olynyk a bum in the same pod. If you didn't want me on, why didn't you just say that?
We love you, Kate. We love you. We love having you here. This is why the pod is fun, because we have passionate people on this panel right now that we love the team. We all want what's best for it. We have different versions of what's the best team and how to get there. But we aren't called. I didn't call KZ no bum. He's fantastic. I love KZ. We didn't trade 3 second-round picks for a guy with no potential. The guy has all the potential in the world. He was baby Giannis. He was baby Durant for a little while. We had Point Justice. We put our role in. But if you're talking about Vic quickly, Vic wanted the bag. He could have gone straight to Charlotte, where they have more cases, legal problems over there than players that are eligible to play. He chose Miami because of the culture, because of the winning that can come with being a Miami Heat player. He didn't just choose the money. If you wanted money, I'll tell you right now, Sacramento would have offered him $30 million over 2 years to get it done.
I want a one-on-one ISO with Ant real quick, because a lot of y'all just glossed over this list he just had. And I want you to read that list one more time, please, because I don't know why everyone just skipped over this list.
I'm going to give you the top 8 first. Tell me if you disagree. It's Lowry, Tyler, Jimmy, Caleb, Bam, Vic, Gabe, Max. Any problems?
Yeah, I have a problem.
I think
Duncan should definitely be in there. And everyone knows how I feel about Duncan. No, I'm not a big fan of Duncan Robinson. We all know that. I done talked about him crazy in the playoffs. But Duncan Robinson definitely deserves to be in the rotation, and he will be, because we need shooters. This is a shooting lead, and I don't agree with it. And I know it may sound stupid what I'm about to say, but Kay said that, and I don't know which one of y'all agree with him, but he said that this will be more of an offensive team. You can't be more of an offensive team without your best shooter on the court. So Duncan, Miami Heat and Eric Spo will find time for Duncan. I can't wait to see Duncan and Nikola Jokic, or even what's more is going to be likely is Victor Oladipo. I can't wait to see them in the second unit of Victor Oladipo, of Max Strus, and Duncan Robinson on the same court at one time.
We need a 4. We need a power forward. We're talking about putting Duncan in the lineup with Max Strus and Victor Oladipo. We need someone with height. And Dedmon is not that guy. We need to get a serviceable big man. I feel like
I believe Jovic will get time also.
What about? I was about to say, yeah. What about the 7-foot rookie?
Oh, he's definitely going to get minutes. In the regular season, we're going to.
I had a chicken wing the other day with more meat on it, more meat on it than Jokic has his whole body. We can't play him.
Oh Lord,
he is a literal stick. He needs time. He needs development. He
Okay,
can
how
play
do
the
you get
4 now.
development?
He's
You
not
have to
playing the
play.
5.
Which he's gonna get via playing in the reserves
Yes,
with those other two
absolutely.
guys that Beam is talking.
When he averages 30 and 15 in the G League, then we can talk about him.
No, why would he go average 30
No,
in the
that's
G League?
reserved
That's
for
like
Jamal
playing
Kane.
against high
Jamal
schoolers to him.
Jamal Kane.
And
This
I
is-
want to hear your rebuttal on this. I
Yeah.
said I want an ISO.
Deem's not
You're
just
right,
gonna call ISO on me and get away with it. Listen, Deem, this is not Biscayne Breakdown. This is not your own show, so I am coming for your head. If you
Oh,
want
shoot.
if you want a shooter on the court, why the hell do you want to play Duncan Robinson? Don't you think the man making $18 million a year, who's supposed to be a shooter, would have been out there during playoff time if he was hitting shots? He wasn't. That's why he was playing 12 minutes a game in the playoffs, because he was not hitting his shots, and that's the only reason he's out there. If you think he's the best shooter on the team, then I don't know where you've been when Max Strus been out there, because Max Strus is a guy who carries himself like a shooter. He does not put his head down when he puts shots up. He doesn't go 0 for 10, or not even 0 for 10. Let's say he starts 0 for 3 and stops shooting like Duncan Robinson does. You cannot be a shooter and have the lack of confidence that Duncan Robinson has. You can't have it. And for you to think that he's assumed a lock on this team when he literally was not in the rotation at all in the playoffs in the biggest games last year is crazy to me. And we know Spo's not going to play a guy just because he's getting paid. We saw him bench Tyler Johnson at Spurs, and that man was on a $50 million contract. So listen, Duncan was my guy. I loved him last year. And he had that first game in the playoffs where he balled out 7-8 from 3. And I stood on my high horse and told everyone, I told you so, I told you so. And then the man couldn't hit a shot the rest of the playoffs and left me looking stupid. That's why I'm cold towards the man now, because he got me looking stupid, quite honestly. But the problem with him is
So it's personal. It's personal. I got it.
Sure,
I got it.
Sure. Because but it's not even just personal, because he'll shoot 7 to 8 from 3, and then he'll go the next 10 games and either go 0 for 6, 1 for 7. That's his problem. He has too many games where he has the 0-fers, the 0 for 8, the 0 for 9, the 1 for 10. That's how you lose games. If he could go out there and limit those and also limit the great games, and for the most part, just be that 4 for 10, 3 for 8 a night guy, that's fine. But his percentage at the end of the year looks okay, because 1 out of every 10 games, he'll shoot 7 to 8. But then when you shoot 1 for 9, the other games, those are all games that you lose, because he's a negative asset who's shooting 1 for 9. So I don't want to look at his percentage at the end of the year and say, oh, okay, well, he was 38% in the playoffs. That's not bad. Yeah, but all the games where he was 1 to 9, 1 to 10, you lost those games because he's a negative asset. He should not be in this rotation, and I do not think he will start the season in the rotation either.
Anyways, y'all, so I'm sorry, Deem. I'll let you finish, but I feel like this has been a long convo, man. So we gotta keep it for later. We got a long season ahead of us, so trust me, we will have the time for it moving forward. But overall, thank you all for listening to today's episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast. Make sure to follow all of my panelists here. You got K_said_K. You got George, aka X Heat Lifer. Shay, and I'm gonna do my best to say this, at Kardashian on Twitter. And then let's see, you got Deem at BL Deem, and then last but not least, Anthony himself at Anthony D_Heat. Did I do it right, or?
I'm now Joel Jacob for MVP.
I'll take that too. But aside from that, thank you all for hopping in for today's episode. And we got a great season coming up. Make sure to check out our live stream this Wednesday before the Heat take on the Bulls. We'll be live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, an hour before the game is expected to start. We got so much stuff headed your way. Make sure to follow us on all platforms at HBTW Podcast. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well at Heat vs. the World. And we're only just getting started, man. We got a long season ahead of us. So aside from that, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. And until next time, hit my music, because we out.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast.